Yo, welcome back to another video. It's your boy Corey, man. We back in it. Let's get right to it. It's WWE Black
New look,
I think I
same great taste.
Kate. You know Caitlyn with he had the blonde and black hair back in
Pepsi
the
Max.
AJV days
Thirsty for more.
slash MO.
There's something special about live entertainment and
few other
live
people.
TV that everyone loves. That's the fact that something can and often does go wrong at any given moment. In WWE's case, that includes the wrong wrestler winning accidentally, often due to miscommunication. There have been times when these accidental wins resulted in impromptu creative changes, such as a storyline taking a different direction because they didn't have a choice. From unplanned title changes due to wrestlers forgetting to kick out to referee mistakes that made everyone angry. These are times wrestlers accidentally won a wrestling match. Let's kick things off with what is the most recent and likely more impactful time a WWE wrestler accidentally won a match. Kevin Owens and AJ Styles had been feuding over the WWE United States Championship on SmackDown. AJ Styles surprisingly won the title during a Madison Square Garden house show. So at the time, WWE intended for AJ Styles to hold the US title for a while, but then he dropped it back to Kevin Owens almost immediately at the Battleground Premium Live event. The finish was ugly. AJ Styles and Kevin Owens were clamped in what looked like a pinning predicament for each of them, though the camera clearly showed that AJ's shoulders were down. The referee counted a slow, hesitant, and weird pinfall before crowning Kevin Owens the new United States champion. AJ Styles looked annoyed and argued with the referee afterward. It was crystal clear this wasn't supposed to happen. Maybe it was supposed to be a double pinfall to set up another rematch, or AJ Styles didn't think both of his shoulders were down at all. Who knows? What we do know, though, is that the fact that AJ won the US title right back on TV 2 nights later confirmed that he wasn't meant to lose it in the first place. Boys and girls, that's the entertainment biz. This wasn't the only time a wrestler won a match with title implications, though. Some of the screw-ups in this video went more under the radar than others. This one didn't go under the radar at all, though, because in this case, Caitlyn accidentally became the #1 contender to the Divas title on live TV. In an August 2012 episode of Monday Night Raw, there was a women's battle royal to determine the #1 contender to the Divas title, also known as the Awful Butterfly Belt. The WWE Divas champion at the time was Layla, remember her? Eve Torres was in the midst of a big heel push at the time, and she was supposed to win the match and challenge Layla for the WWE Divas title. The final two in the match were Caitlyn and Eve, and the plan here was for Eve to go over. Instead, Eve screwed up, big time. Caitlyn clotheslined her over the top rope, and the plan was for Eve to land on the ring apron, which, as you might be able to guess since it made our list, didn't happen. Caitlyn looks confused and unsure of what to do with herself, even though her character should be celebrating. Even funnier than Caitlyn's look, though, is the look on WWE Divas champion Layla.
Who's Caitlyn?
On top of that, you have one of Michael Cole's all-time great commentary reactions. Well, that was a shocker. In more ways than one, it sure was Cole. How did WWE fix this? Eve Torres attacked Caitlyn at the following Premium Live event to injure and replace her in the title match so the storyline could progress as initially planned. Still, that was an awkward and unintentional win that threatened to impact the long-term booking of the women's division at the time. Hey, who are we kidding? At this point, there was no women's division. Thank God times have changed, though. But if there's one time wrestlers messed up a match finish on an important stage, it's that time where the wrong man won, the title changed hands when it shouldn't have. And it all happened at WrestleMania, the biggest show of the WWE calendar year. This is one where multiple people have openly revealed that it did not go as it was supposed to. At WrestleMania 2000, WWE held the Hardcore Battle Royal, which wasn't about. It was about who won more recently when the bell rang, not who won first. There was the cool version of the 24/7 title. It was like 10 times cooler. Now, 15 minutes should
Times
give a
Square.
wrestler enough time to fix any mistakes and ensure that the match ends
What?
exactly how
Did
they
he just
initially planned.
fly
Right?
in off a zip line?
Nah.
Hands in the window!
I
No!
mean, Spider-Man?
Oh, God. Let's get this over with.
Nah. They still messed up the finish of the match. So, Crash was in the Taz mission when Hardcore Holly hit him in the head with a sweetie jar and went for the pinfall. What was supposed to happen was that the referee would count to 2, time would run out, and Crash would remain the Hardcore champion. Instead, what happened was that the referee started counting too soon, so there was over a second left, and he stopped himself from counting the 3. Everyone was confused. On commentary, Jim Ross said Crash kicked out, even though he didn't. Crash went and grabbed the Hardcore title to leave with it. But then the announcer declared that Hardcore Holly was the winner of the match. And you thought you knew what an awkward moment was. Sheesh. Well, hopefully our last entry makes Emma feel better, because if you're going to screw up the finish of your match, the main event of a pre-show isn't the worst place to do it, compared to Wrestle Freaking Mania. However, this was the pre-show of the first ever NXT takeover held outside of Full Sail University, where WWE had held all previous takeovers. NXT was performing in front of an arena for the first time, so I guess you could say it was a bit of an oopsie. They promoted it as NXT being on the biggest stage yet. It was the first takeover to have its sub-series, and it was held as a support show for one of WWE's leading
Did they have
premium
him in
live
that fatal
events,
four-way match?
SummerSlam, in a fatal four-way match that featured Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair,
Yeah.
Dana Brooke, and Emma. You can probably assume that Emma was not supposed to go over here, as great as she is. I mean, this match featured 2 of the 4 horsewomen, which just so happened to be the main event at WrestleMania a few years later. But that's precisely what happened, and she hit her finishing move on Becky Lynch in the corner, pulled her in for a cover, 1, 2, 3. The man completely forgot to kick out, leading to a confused celebration by Emma and the commentary team, saying, "Wow, Emma's new team with Dana Brooke must be paying off, huh?" But you know who was really mad? The person who was supposed to win the match, of course. The Queen, Charlotte Flair. She gave them an angry look, and they scrambled to perform a quick, closing double submission spot to put the good gals over. Speaking of screw-ups in matches with multiple competitors, at the Judgment Day 2000 Premium Live event, the opening match had a bizarre ending. The match saw Too Cool take on Team Ike, such a creative name, by the way, composed of Edge, his longtime buddy Christian, and avid milk consumer Kurt Angle. At the end of the match, Rikishi hit Edge with the hip-hop drop and followed it up with a pinfall attempt, which Kurt Angle was supposed to break up. Now, before you give our Olympic gold medalist a hard time, you need to look at all the facts here. Kurt Angle was still trying to recover mentally, physically, and emotionally from the fact that he just had Rikishi's entire backside rubbed into his face. Now that you have that crucial piece of information, you can understand why Kurt tried to break up the pinfall a bit too late, and the referee hit the 3 count. The crowd was happy since everybody loved Mr. Sexay. However, no music played for a noticeable amount of time. Then Jim Ross saved the day by enthusiastically announcing, "We got winners." Scotty climbed into the ring looking stunned, and even though Rikishi had just won, he had that angry
Rikishi.
Samoan look on his face.
Who is Ricochet?
Man, Rikishi's a legend.
Ricochet.
Do you know who else is a legend? Dean Malenko. At Sold Out 2000, a WCW premium live event that took place when the company was on
I
its
like that
downward
word.
spiral,
Ricochet.
Billy Kidman was scheduled to wrestle not once but 3 times in one night. Great booking, by the way, guys. Creme de la creme. His first match of the night was against one of the most technically gifted technical wrestlers of all time, Dean Malenko, in a catch-as-catch-can style match. What were the rules, you might ask? A win could only occur via pinfall or submission, and if a wrestler left the ring and his feet touched the floor, he would be disqualified immediately, which apparently Dean Malenko just forgot. The match lasted only 2 minutes before Malenko rolled out of the ring. The commentary team, obviously confused, even though they knew the company would die soon anyway, said, "Well, I mean, The match is over then. The referee tells Dean Malenko to get back inside the ring so the match can continue. But when he does, they ring the bell, and the referee just goes with it and disqualifies Malenko. Yep, that was WCW at the time. The Wild, Wild West, and a wild, wild mess. Thankfully, this was Dean Malenko's last match in WCW. His legacy should remain as intact as humanly possible. One man who definitely had a history with Dean Malenko, but completely ruined his legacy, was Chris Benoit. As horrible as Chris Benoit's final actions were, it wouldn't make sense to ignore history and pretend like he too didn't win a title by accident once upon a time in Stampede Wrestling. It was 1988, and Chris Benoit was wrestling Johnny Smith for the Stampede British Commonwealth Mid-Heavyweight Championship. That rolls easily off the tongue, huh? Jesus. Anyway, the match's finish was that Johnny Smith's manager, the Weasel, was trying to pass brass knuckles to Johnny so he could cheat his way to win, and then Chris Benoit would intercept them and hit Johnny instead. Classic, you reap what you sow wrestling storytelling. Then he would pin Saint but be disqualified afterward, so the title wouldn't change hands. Except nobody told Dean Hart, who was subbing in as referee at the last minute. He didn't see the brass knuckles, so he awarded the win and the title to Chris Benoit. Wrestling is a hell of a sport. They just have to be flexible and improvise when these shenanigans happen. Speaking of being flexible, Melina has had many accolades in her long-tenured pro wrestling career. She's a multiple-time WWE Women's Champion, Divas Champion, etc. But many fans don't know that Melina once accidentally lost the WWE Women's Championship to Mickie James at a house show. This happened at a Paris house show in 2008. Mickie also had her share of success in the WWE's women's division, including winning the Women's Championship from the legendary Trish Stratus in her first WrestleMania appearance in 2006. This time, however, she wasn't supposed to win any gold. During a house show, she and Victoria were involved in a triple threat match against the champion Melina. In these situations, the champion, Melina, would always retain because they never do a title change off TV. However, Mickie James stole the pin. Mickie hit Victoria with a Hurricane Rana before going for the pinfall. Victoria most likely thought that Melina would interrupt the count, so her shoulders stayed down for the 3. Mickie James was crowned the new women's champion. Oops, it was never clear whether Melina or Victoria messed up, but the consensus was that whoever took the fall forgot to kick out, causing the title change.
Ever felt trapped by endless ads while watching your favorite videos? One click on privacyadblocker.com and say goodbye to ad interruptions.
When you do a big move and you gotta wait for somebody else to break it up. It's not that big of a
the man
move,
himself, Jonathan Coachman, was there to set the record straight. The coach immediately ordered an impromptu one-on-one rematch between Melina and Mickie James so that Melina could win her title back. Close one. Thank God they can just do random impromptu matches in WWE. As great as random impromptu house show matches are, though, there's nothing like long-term storytelling. From 1996 to 1997, WCW built one of the most epic rivalries in wrestling history. After being accused of conspiring with the NWO, Sting exiled himself for over a year, refusing to associate with his old WCW buddies while stalking the NWO. This storyline culminated in a showdown between Hulk Hogan and Sting at Starrcade 1997, WCW's biggest annual event and their version of WrestleMania. And the match flopped big time. The Hulkster was never excellent inside the ring, and the icon Sting showed up to the bout out of shape. So, it was rough to watch because the Hulkster dominated far too much of the match, robbing fans of the feel-good moment they expected to see. Finally, Hulk Hogan pinned WCW's franchise player, and the match referee, Nick Patrick, counted to 3. The plan was for Nick Patrick, who previously had ties to the NWO, to do a fast count to justify the special guest enforcer Bret Hart storming the ring and restarting the match. Instead, with a normal, if not slow, 3 count by Patrick, Hulk Hogan beat Sting clean as a whistle. Now, there are multiple rumors about this, of course. Some people say Nick Patrick just forgot to count slowly, and others say Hulk Hogan told him not to do a fast count because, you know, that doesn't work for me, brother. Others suggest Sting was supposed to kick out that time to
doesn't
set up
work
the
for me,
fast count
brother.
for later. Regardless, the finish looked horrible, and Hogan looked dominant before Bret Hart screwed him into giving Sting an instant rematch for no reason, after which Sting did win the main event and title in a very, very confusing fashion. That's the late 90s for you. Speaking of which, at a 1999 Toronto house show, former MMA fighter Ken Shamrock was supposed to challenge Jeff Jarrett for the Intercontinental title. However, he ran into travel issues that prevented him from making it to the arena. Hometown hero Edge, who was a newcomer then, replaced him instead, and against all expectations, ended up winning the title. Jeff Jarrett was legitimately angry in the aftermath, and Edge has stated in some shoot interviews over the years that the victory was a surprise to him at the moment that the ref counted to 3. Also, Edge dropped the title back to Jarrett the next night on PPV. Now, even though this mistake was fixed immediately, it would be wild to do a video on accidental match finishes and not include John Cena and Batista at the 2005 Royal Rumble match. John Cena technically didn't win the 2005 Royal Rumble, but Batista did after Vince McMahon restarted the match to have one decisive winner. Cena did have a claim to win the match though, or at the very least, he should have been a co-winner for falling from the ring and landing outside simultaneously as the Animal. What really happened? Well, in the man's own words, John Cena just sucks at over-rotating, and he and Batista grappled their way to a double elimination when only Cena was supposed to be out. And, according to some accounts, wasn't even supposed to be out yet. Vince McMahon charged the ring, extremely angry at the botch, only to tear both of his quads while entering the ring and have to give orders to restart the match as he sat down on the mat like an angry child. Here's John Cena talking about Vince McMahon tearing both of his quads while entering the ring. That wasn't the only time people were angry after a match finish was screwed up though, which leads us to our next one. One night in August 2008, on an episode of ECW, Matt Hardy teamed up with the ECW champion and the world's strongest man Mark Henry to face The Miz and John Morrison in the classic Can the Champion and the Challenger Coexist? Pro wrestling storyline. The match finish saw Matt Hardy hit a side effect from the top rope to John Morrison, covering him, and Morrison kicking out a fraction of a second after the referee's hand hit the mat for the 3 count. First, look at that beautiful mohawk The Miz was rocking then. He needs to bring it back. Second, take a look at Mark Henry's face. He's just standing on the apron, dumbfounded that the match is already over, as the referee rushes to tell everyone a closing spot to make this 5-minute main event suddenly make sense. Oh, and by the way, the referee was immediately fired backstage after this match too. Poor guy. Let's hope the referee for Dana and Bayley's match wasn't though. So, Bayley debuted on the main roster the night after SummerSlam 2016 and was hot as a pepper straight out of her excellent run as the NXT Women's Champion. Dana Brooke clearly wasn't supposed to beat her clean as a whistle in a random match on a random episode of Raw 2 months later. Dana threw Bayley into the ring post, dragged her back into the ring, and went to cover her. What happened next was that Dana Brooke should have performed what's called a dirty pin in professional wrestling, which, for those of you who don't know, is when a WWE superstar has their feet all up in the ropes so that the referee would break the count. However, she was too far away and couldn't reach the ropes, so the referee counted it. Dana Brooke stayed covering Bayley for a little bit, probably apologizing to her profusely, and then celebrated her win with a look that screamed, "Yeah, I just messed that one up, big time." And hey, our next entry also took place in 2016. Enzo Amore was known as a skilled talker, but he wasn't exceptionally gifted inside the squared circle. At Payback 2016, a worst-case scenario occurred when he took a nasty bump in the early stages of a match between himself and Big Cass against the Vaudevillain. In a freak accident that was 100% Enzo's fault, he took a nasty clothesline from the bottom rope and wound up hurt outside the ring. Enzo and Big Cass were intended to win this match, of course. They were the hotter, more heavily pushed act than the Vaudevillains, and they were also fighting for the right to challenge another big team, the New Day, for their tag team titles. Regardless, the injury was an accident. and, at minimum, changed how the match's finish went down. Man, remember when everyone started hating Enzo a few years after this? He went from hero to villain real quick. That's wrestling for you, though. Nobody knows what it's like to feel the fans love more than the American Dragon, Daniel Bryan, though. And he won this next match entirely accidentally. During a random episode of SmackDown in June 2011, the man we know refer to as the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, teamed up with Wade Barrett and Ted DiBiase Jr. to face the most thrown together at the last-minute team we've ever seen, composed by Ezekiel Jackson, Sin Cara, and Daniel Bryan. Every WWE is supposed to tell a story, and the story of this match was supposed to be Ezekiel Jackson getting over with the crowd due to his strength and power with a wild, memorable hot tag, which makes this even funnier, because what actually happened was that he only got 30 seconds in the ring right at the start, and never got to be tagged back in the match. Poor Ezekiel. Instead, Daniel Bryan hit his running dropkick on DiBiase Jr., covered him 1, 2, 3, and Ted DiBiase kicked out too late before storming backstage.
How you gonna say
a dropkick
that,
finishing a wrestling match.
He said that.
Which
he
of
said
these
the exact
accidental
name
finishes to WWE matches
right there.
did you find the most absurd
he said
and
DiBiase
easily
like
avoidable?
5 times.
Let us
And then he gonna say DiBiase. We're out of here. Thank y'all for watching. I'm gonna see y'all in the next one.